guys? We're back with another Killing for Company episode here. Shut this down. Okay, so if you haven't got it so far, I'm back with another sort of series this year that I started regarding the world of power metal. More specifically sort of power and prog. If you missed sort of the intro or the concept for this, I kind of dedicated back at the beginning of the year an episode to investigation of the genre, just spending more time with it and collecting a series of records that had come recommended via a website. I'll link to the first episode below, but what we're going to be doing here is kind of going over just 3 records that I've been spending some time with in recent months and dive into them a little bit and kind of get my initial impression and thoughts on them. So I think last time I started with a classic, well-known release from Gamma Ray, Land of the Free, and we'll kind of do that this time around with probably one of the biggest names in the entirety of the genre. Pull that out there. So Hammerfall, Glory to the Brave, comes out in 1997, I believe. And this is a Nuclear Blast release. I've had, people talk about how this was kind of an important record to not just the genre of power metal, but even traditional heavy metal. And I can kind of get that. I don't really know personally where power metal, on the European side of things, how it was perceived or what people thought of it. If you were a fan of the genre, let's say the 1980s, I don't know like the state of the genre in 1997, but Hammerfall is, I know by the time I kind of became aware of the genre, they were one of the major names. For better or worse, right? I probably associated them with more of like the derogatory stereotypes of the genre. But this record actually proved to be rather enjoyable. There's definitely pieces of it to me that sound like what we're listening to here, the opening track, which I believe is aptly titled The Dragon Lies Bleeding. But you can hear like a little bit more of like the sort of German speed metal, not quite thrash, but faster paced sort of riffing stuff. But it's on the next song, The Metal Age, and I think memory serves me correct, Unchained, which is track number 8, comes kind of on the back right before the end of this album, where it kind of feels like the more aggressive side.
I close my eyes, I realize I'm far away from home. In the twilight zone, the shadows mourn. Out of the night came the shining, the metal age.
Comes to life. There's a Child of the Damned, a Warlord cover here, which was interesting, right? Especially given I kind of was introduced to this album or heard about it when I went to go pick it up. It's like somehow pushing traditional heavy metal back to the consciousness of many heavy metal fans, or non-extreme metal or non-alternative metal, right? Because the 90s is kind of known for sprouting all that, but the Children of the Damned cover is interesting, or Child of the Damned, I should say, because it doesn't really capture the mystery that there's a weird sort of atmosphere on Deliver Us, and it's not on this Hammerfall cover. You get a little bit more of like a cleaner, sort of more upbeat kind of vibe to it. The Hammerfall song, though, like the track titled Hammerfall, is right. If you're gonna name a song after the band name, you kind of have to live up to it a little bit. Man, the chorus is, I have to say, is killer. It's got this like, I don't want to describe it. You get to the chorus and I think it's the band. I don't know if they've enlisted other choral vocalists. Not quite. It's not a whisper, but this sort of lower hum, like Hammerfall. Sort of choral, whatever, delivery that sits right at the heart of that song, entitled Hammerfall, perfect. There's a few other, like, I don't know, some of the songs here, I think there's one, they all have like a built-in crowd. Yeah, so Stone Cold, it's kind of, that one was the kind of down, right? Like a one track I'm really critical of. It did not work for me. Stone Cold to me, it seemed a little bit too slow and sort of drug on. It has, another one of those big chorus like crowd chanting kind of deal, but that one kind of put me to sleep a little bit. So if I was gonna be critical of one track that did not work, I'm gonna pick Stone Cold there. All in all, like, the impression that I have with this band is as sort of negative association I have with Hammerfall and their contribution to the world of power metal. This is actually not that bad. So, a classic, right, that I think people should have. I don't know how deep into their catalog I want to go, but for a record that was seen as a classic and important for sort of uplifting and creating greater sort of runway for the world of power metal, Hammerfall, Glory to the Brave, in the collection. Moving on. Okay, so next one that I picked up this is Elegy and Labyrinth of Dreams. So I'm unfamiliar with this band, and I guess they fall into an interesting time period of, like, one, they're a European band but almost playing in a much more like American prog power style. Like, I hear there's some Crimson Glory in their sound more than I do, let's say, Dream Theater. I mean, this is 92, 93. Yeah, 92. So on that side of, like, the, last time I covered Symphony X, this band seems to be much more rooted in, like, the progressive 80s of American power metal, so think Queensryche or something like that. But they aren't doing anything. I'll turn up a little bit for you. They aren't doing anything too complex, Obviously, Crimson Glory is kind of dissolving by 92, and Queensryche is sort of at their peak, more or less, depending on where you kind of fall with that band. But Fate's Warnings, turned the corner, doing something that is deeply more progressive by this time period. So what's cool about this is it feels like it's just kind of 5 years behind their American peers, but in a style that not only in production and songwriting style feels kind of like a glimpse into the past as someone who spends much more time listening to the American side of power metal. Tonally, like it I don't know what your kind of access to studio production standards looked like for Elegy at this time period. This is their debut release, I believe. I think they had like a demo or EP that came out prior, but this record sounds very sort of mid-focused. Doesn't have a lot of bottom end to it, but instrumentally, you are 100% here for the guitar work. Some really cool. There's like 2 instrumentals on it, and it's just sort of dual guitar wizardry. Some of the other tracks that I really enjoyed. Right on time there. I want to say the back end of this record. Let me just look at the track listing quick. Yeah, like Power Games. I really like that track, and Labyrinth of Dreams. You know, the title track here. Also great, but I would also want to mention there's a little bit of like AOR on this. Like I'm No Fool, it's just an example. I listened to that track, and there's something just very comfortable and easygoing about it, which I guess to some degree, like parts of power metal in the European school always dabbled in that, right? Like last time, I noticed that on a few tracks with the Gamma Ray release, and I think Halloween is known to also kind of have that as well. You know, my observations are really just sort of passing and limited, but I always feel like I'm one track away on some of these power metal records to some mid-paced AOR stuff, and Elegy, for all of their American power metal leanings, at least on the progressive side of things, they also share a little bit of like the AOR side that you got from the European power metal. Like, I wouldn't really classify any of this to be on like the speed thrash stuff that you got out of Germany. It is much more like on the Queensryche, Crimson Glory, Fate's Warning kind of stuff. Nevertheless, like an interesting sounding record from a band that I think has a pretty long career, and they're definitely sort of filled out a little bit more of the prog side of the equation for me. And you know, for all the sword and sorcery connotations that people have with the genre, I'm definitely coming to terms with the fact that having a singer who can hold a tune with incredible ability and talented guitarists, yeah, it's going to open up some prog possibilities for you as well in the metal world. So anyway, this was a good record. I don't really feel like I need to hunt down much of Elegy's catalog after this, right? So between the Hammerfall and Elegy, I'm kind of like happy to have them in the collection. How often I'll return to them, you know, probably limited. I definitely enjoyed the Gamma Ray release a whole lot more than I did the Hammerfall. But different time period, different bands, different sort of pedigree. And also You know, the Elegy release is kind of cool to get a glimpse into what a different part of Europe, you know, what they thought of the genre at the time. So here we got our AOR track going on. I will leave you with this, and we're going to move on from Elegy to the next band. So, just like I did for the last video, the Domine record was my favorite out of the three. That's I might be pushing it there. Gamma Ray and Domine were awesome. I was less sort of thrilled about the Symphony X. Man, this band and this album is the clear winner for me out of this three. So from Norway, on Noise Records, this is Conception and Parallel Minds. So now I did not know this, right? Like, I'm kind of coming into this world completely naive as sort of the background, but Roy Khan is the vocalist here, and apparently he's a big deal, not only for his contribution to this band, but also playing another well-known power metal band called Camelot. Yeah, so this album, you know, is interesting in the sense, like, it has the weight. It feels heavier. There's like greater bottom end, especially coming after that Elegy record. It comes 1 year after, so I think Elegy was 92. I think this is 93. I could be off on that. Let me just. But what I'm trying to get with, like, is both European bands. Yeah, so Parallel Minds is their second full length, released in 93, and then Elegy with Labyrinth of Dreams is 92, right? So 1 year apart, yet they feel like one Elegy is completely immersing themselves in a sound that is a little bit more like 85 to 88 American power prog, where like this Conception record is totally 1990s in my mind. It's got a little bit more of like a modern production envelope, right? It just sounds a little bit more amped up. There's more weight to the sound overall, which is I don't have a problem with by any means. As much as like the Elegy record had a little bit of like cool nostalgia factor, this Conception like is awesome. I love the way it sounds. Roy Khan has a killer voice. What's interesting is like he walks an interesting line. He doesn't have like this huge operatic range. Apparently he was a trained opera singer. I always feel like at the upper reaches of his register are his vocals seem very smooth. He's kind of like finesses like every sort of edge or any restraint that he would be exercising, right, when he's like approaching like an end of a note that he can't quite handle. He knows just how much to lean into it and how much to back off, because there's very little strain. Even like the Hammerfall vocalist, let me pull his name up here quick. I know if it's Joachim, but Joachim Kans, I don't know how that's pronounced in Sweden, but he had like this kind of nasal presentation. It works well within a power metal, like European power metal context, right? He's been around for forever and probably an iconic vocalist from the genre. Roy seems much more mellow, right? Like there's not much strain coming out from his vocal presentation. The other side of this is like, you know, his vocal side of things, which seems completely in control, and the heavier production. They don't get anywhere like into Nevermore territory, but the songs have like this interesting like sort of like here we have this like chunky sort of cha-chunk thing going on, and there's a couple of tracks where it almost feels like that kind of staccato. My Decision is one that has like an industrial lead-in and a very sort of like chunky, almost, using some bass element of what a thrash riff would be and knowing how to sort of truncate it so you get this sort of like rhythmic pulse as opposed to like a continuous stream of palm muting. Anyway, it just, to me, sounds 100% 90s, outside of the electronic influences, but they balance that out. Like, I think it's I don't know if it's Wolf's Lair here. Yeah. Like, Wolf's Lair is one that's got a little bit more of like an aggressive, sort of straightforward side to it, but Silent Crying is a little bit of like the ballad here, but I'm totally for it. It works really well. The songs are well composed for a band that's kind of halfway into the 90s power prog thing. None of these songs drift into the Symphony X dilemma or the Dream Theater stuff where they just sort of are there's no restraint in the songwriting style. They're completely off the leash in a blizzard of instrumental technicality. Like, if that's your bag, that's all good. But I like that this was a little bit more concise in the songwriting. They go somewhere, and listening to this in my car, like I kept this in my 6 CD changer for a while there. It's out of the 3 that I've listed here, it's clearly my favorite, and they do a killer job transitioning between sort of the softer, quieter moments into the sort of heavier, chunky thrash stuff. Just great songwriting, and yeah, you're gonna get some cool solos delivered from an exceptional and a very competent guitar playing and with a great vocalist and Roy's work, but more than anything, these songs are memorable, and I don't know, I haven't memorized all of them, but like when a chorus is about to hit, I can get that feeling where it's like, yeah, this is familiar, and I know where the song is going, and I've memorized different moments on this album. So I think there's a couple of the first 3 albums of Conception seem to be recommended, and out of the 3 that I've mentioned here, this is the band that I'm probably going to go back to and hunt down more from. So that's Conception Parallel Minds. This is part 2. We got Hammer Fall Down, Elegy, Conception added to the list. First episode, as I mentioned, we covered Gamma Ray, Symphony X, and Domine. And I'm going to keep these going and trying to spend a little bit of time sorting through the world of power prog. But I'll probably hope to get one of these episodes done at maybe the end of this year or early 2024. But all said, like, I know that you need to have Gamma Ray and Hammerfall in your collection, but prior to doing this sort of investigation, I never would have gone for something like Domine or Conception, right? Like, they're totally new to me, and why this series has been fun to listen to or spend time investigating in 2024. So anyway, just something quick, simple, my brief thoughts and initial impressions with these records. Like this series, I'm completely sort of also open to suggestions. Last time I put up an episode, people will happy to contribute their thoughts and offer up some suggestions. So if anyone catches this and you've got ideas about where to steer me, given the bands that I enjoyed here, and maybe even like other recommendations within the style, let me know, leave a comment. Until then, I'll see you guys later.